Hey everyone, this is Gretchen with Find Your Wave Creations. We're happy to be back with One of a Kind this month for the September virtual event. This month we've got our advice canvas that we're going to be working on. We're going to feature stickles and glossy accents. So we've got 8 different options that you can choose from for your kit, and we still have some kits available if you're looking to get one. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what those kits look like and how we can put them together. So first I'm going to do a preview of all of the different kits so you can see what they look like up close. So this first one is our Wineology kit. So it's Wine O'Clock Somewhere, and it comes with several different sayings and images. Even comes with an actual wine cork and some artificial grapes for you to add to your canvas. And then some wine colored trim for the edges. Then our second one is our Coffeeology. So always stay grounded is the key message on this one. And we've got all kinds of coffee beans on it. We've got this pretty brown decorative trim, and then several different types of coffee. So you can choose to put them in whatever order you want on your canvas. And then we've got some texture down here with the brown felt. And then we've used our pop dots or foam adhesive squares to add dimension to that. Oh, and on the wine one, we also have the cork in the background for that texture. So then moving on, we've got Beeology, advice from a honeybee. So instead of trim around the outside on this one, we've got this pretty yellow and black kind of honeybee looking ribbon that goes across the top. And then we've got artificial sunflowers that go on there as well. And then you've got all your different honeybees and other flowers and some honeycomb and even a little jar of honey there to go with it. And again, all these artificial sunflowers are highlighting it. The next one we've got is Wisdom from a Gnome. So we've got all of our kind of gnome village creatures on this one and some cute little sayings. And then we've got this red rickrack trim that goes around the outside. And then we've added multiple layers of dimension here. So I used a single layer of pop dots here and then used a single layer for the bottom of the mushroom house, but then doubled up the adhesive so that it's extra tall there. And then we've got the grass down here that's pop dots underneath that as well. Then we've got the advice from a flamingo. So this one's really fun. It's got this leaf trim border around the outside, and then it's got this kind of blue variegated sky background at the top, and then some palm frond printed paper towards the bottom. And then we've got several different flamingos along with all of their various sayings that go on this one. And then next we've got Sea Turtleology, or advice from a sea turtle. And on this one, we've got the water paper as the background. And then we've, again, pop dotted a bunch of our sea turtles so that you can see kind of the added dimension there. And then the trim on this one is this kind of green mesh net that goes around the background. And then you can see on this one where you can actually see the shine on some of the turtles and the water. And that's where we added the glossy accents. And then you can see the sparkle from the stickles on these ones as well. So that is our advice from a sea turtle. Then we've got advice from the ocean. So this is kind of the original one that we came up with. And it's got this pretty sparkly trim around the outside in beachy colors. And then we've got all of our different shells and starfish, even an anchor that goes on here. And then we've got the cork to simulate the sand on the beach at the bottom of this one. And then we've got this pretty kind of watercolor blues and greens, oceany color background for our paper on this one. And then the last one is advice from a snowman. And we've got some different snowflakes here that are added dimension on this one. We've also got this fun, glittery, sparkly edging for the trim on this one that looks like snow. And then we've used some of our stickles on our snowman so you can see where he's kind of all sparkly looking. And then we actually are making a snowman with some half styrofoam balls, and then actually decorating him with all of these different pieces. And all these instructions will be emailed to you as well if you purchase your kit. So you'll be able to see step by step how to build that snowman. We've even got a melted snowman on this guy. We decorated him with glossy accents to make all of his parts kind of stand out there. And then in the background on this one, above the snowflake paper for the majority of the background, we've got a sparkle snow felt in the background so that it simulates the felt. So next we're going to go ahead and walk through each one and kind of talk about where we applied the glossy accents and any other tools and inks and supplies that we used along the way. Okay, so for the Wineology one, and really for all of the kits, there's four main things that you need. You need some type of liquid adhesive. I like this Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, but any type of liquid adhesive that's your kind of favorite to use for paper crafting is good. If it dries quickly, that's just kind of a bonus, especially for some of the trims and pieces that we've got on this one. And then you're going to need scissors or a trimmer so that you can fussy cut out all of your images and sayings that go on your canvas. And then you're going to want some foam dots or pop dots to add the dimension like we talked about. And then optional is if you have any distressings, or I like to use these powder puff chalk inks, but then on some of the canvases I also use my Tim Holtz distress ink in the walnut stain color. That's kind of my go-to color for my browns. So for the Wineology canvas, we cut out all of our different sayings. That's one of the homework things that I posted about a couple days ago that I said you guys could go ahead and do. And then I used this feather gray powder puff chalk to actually disguise the white background behind the "Life Happens, Wine Helps" saying. And then I went ahead and applied glossy accents to the Wineology. So if you can see that, you can see where it's kind of shiny there. And then I also applied it to the words "wine helps" here. And then I even cut out some of the little wine droplets that were in your printed images to be able to scatter across the canvas. And I just applied the liquid glue right to the canvas and then put that down on top of them. And that was easier than doing it with the glue on the back of the images. Then we got the "I pair well with wine." So I went ahead and put the Stickles glitter on the hearts, and then the wine glasses to simulate that kind of glassy look of a glass. I went ahead and added glossy accents there. And then on the bottom, we've got our wine barrel where the glasses again have the glossy accent on it. And I did the same thing with the wine bottle to put some gloss on that as well as on the grapes. And then the words I just cut out, and some of them have the cork background. I did add some glossy accents onto the sip of "I don't give a sip." And then I used my liquid adhesive to adhere the wine cork and to adhere my artificial grapes on top of the printed grapes that are below. And then on the weekend forecast saying, I also went ahead and put glossy accents on those as well. So your kit is going to have a 1/2 ounce bottle of Ranger Stickles, and then it's also going to have a 1/2 ounce bottle of the glossy accents. And so you can choose where you want to apply the glitter and where you want to apply your glossy accents to add that bit of shine to your canvas. What I recommend on most of these is to obviously to kind of do your homework first and fussy cut out all the images and the words however you would like them to be. And your full color instructions that get emailed to you have images of what the canvas looks like for these sample ones. So you can go off of that, but it also has detailed instructions. And then I found it's easiest to work kind of from the base paper layer first, and then in most cases I added the trim second, and then I worked from the bottom up, and I kind of laid everything out on the canvas first just to make sure I had spacing right, and then actually started adhering everything with either the liquid adhesive or the foam dots underneath it. So next we've got Coffeeology. So for Coffeeology, again, we've got this kind of brown coffee stain paper for the back. So that goes on the bottom. And then we've got the brown felt at the bottom. And I cut it in just a gentle slope there. And then added my trim. So my brown trim around the outside. And then for that Coffeeology, for the Better Latte Than Never, and then in the back of all of these coffee stain images, as well as Take Life One Cup at a Time and Take Time to Smell the Coffee, I went ahead and used my Distress ink in walnut stain from Tim Holtz just to give it that coffee background. and I just applied it with one of the round daubers. But whatever is your favorite way to apply ink, or you can skip that step if you prefer to have just the white background. And then on this one, I applied glossy accents onto the coffee beans in the heart, and then also to the top of the coffee in the brown coffee cup, and then to the bottom of this iced coffee. And then I put stickles on the top of that one. And then I also put some stickles on the little coffee beans on my to-go cup, and then added some glossy accents here to the actual cup, and then some stickles onto the little like heat, can't think of what that word is, the little plume that's coming out of your coffee cup for the heat. And then you've got the different coffee beans here. Some of them are just glued directly onto the canvas, and then some are popped up. And then the same thing with the words. Some of them I glued directly onto the canvas, and then some of them I popped up with my foam dots. And then I added some stickles to the coffee here, and then glossy accents to the little design in the coffee, and then also to the rim of where the cup and the saucer would be. And then also added some glossy accents here for my iced coffee. And then finally, we've got some stickles down here on our burlap bag that has all of our coffee beans in it. So that's for our advice from a coffee canvas. Then next we have Beeology. So for Beeology, we've got stickles on most of the flower petals. So you can choose if you want kind of that added dimension there. And then I also added stickles onto the wings of my bees, so you can kind of see the shine there. And then added some glossy accents onto the bee's eye, and then onto the actual body of the bee as well. And again, I used my Tim Holtz Distress Ink and Walnut Stain, and just edged the words of some of my sayings as well. So you'll see that throughout the canvas. And then we've got some cute little butterflies on this one along with your bees. So those I put stickles on the wings just to highlight those. And then this honeycomb, I left the honeycomb bare and then added glossy accents onto the body of the bee, and then stickles onto its wings again. Again, stickles on the flowers over here, on the butterfly down here. And then this butterfly I actually use glossy accents on instead of stickles. So feel free to mix it up. It's your canvas. You can do it exactly how you would like it to be. And then my honey jar, I also highlighted the kind of the glass of the honey jar with the glossy accents to give it that glossy effect as well. And then finally just put some stickles glitter onto the petals down here of all my different flowers. And this one has this pretty light brown tannish wood grain paper that has this really pretty gold metallic accents in it. So that the paper alone just kind of shimmers in the light for the advice from a honeybee canvas. So next we've got Wisdom from a Gnome. So for Wisdom from a Gnome, we've got the blue sky background paper, and then we've got the red rickrack trim that goes around the outside. And then for all of our different gnome village creatures, we've got this wooden butterfly that's in your kit that's painted purple. And then I added glossy accents onto it, so you can kind of see it brings out a bunch of different shades with the sparkle there. And then I added a little bit of glossy accents onto the belly of my frog, onto my little rabbits, and then also onto the white parts of the deer and the white parts of the mom or grandma gnome, her white hair as well. And then for the Always Believe in Magic and the fairy, added lots of stickles glue just to give kind of that sparkly magical effect on that. And then also added stickles into the word magic there as well. And then on my Don't Be Bugged by the Little Things on the ladybug, we've got glossy accents on his eyes and stickles on the leaf. And then on the actual mushroom house here, this is kind of one of my favorite images we've got on this one. We've got glossy accents on all of the white parts, so you can kind of see how that is and gives dimensions to all the white spots on the tops of all of the mushroom peaks. And then I added glossy accents onto all the plants and the grass. And I literally just went and applied it in upward sweeping motions, kind of like how the blades of the grass are, all throughout the grass background paper that you see there. And then I applied the twinkle sparkles here for Make Everyday Magical. Some of them go below the level of the foam on this grass, and then I added some on top. And then you're actually going to have an extra piece if you follow my template. So you can add your sparkles kind of wherever you like there on this one. And then the Remember No Place Like Gnome, I added glossy accents on that entire strip of words, so that it is very shiny and kind of has like a domed effect on it. And Make Everyday Magical, we've got stickles on the little star in front of the word make, and then on the word magical. And then we've got stickles all over on the actual glitter fairy dust in the background there. And then the stand tall, no matter how short you are, love that saying because I am vertically challenged, as I like to say. So I've got glossy accents on the top of that mushroom, and then there are stickles on the stem and then also on the grass there. And then on our little gnome guys here at the bottom, I put glossy accents on all of his, the gnome hats, as well as the peak of the mushroom top. And then there's stickles on their beards, the base of the mushroom, on the bunny, and then on the, again, on the beard of this guy. And then the last one is Always Hang With Your Gnomies. And we've got two little gnomes jumping up to give each other a high five. Their beards have the stickles again, and their hats have the glossy accents. And then this little bottom mushroom, I did glossy accents on him as well. And then there are stickles on, you can see on the grass, all of that shimmer that the stickles brings to that. Then next we have Advice from a Flamingo. So again, we've got this pretty variegated tealish blue paper in the background for the sky. And then underneath for the bottom part, we've got our palm frond paper with our leaf trim here. And then Advice from a Flamingo, I went ahead and used my powder puff chalk inks and added this strawberry milkshake color onto the edges of my Advice from a Flamingo saying. And then also use that to kind of disguise where I didn't fussy cut very well. I did the same thing on the Wisdom from a Gnome with the palm tree, like grass green color, onto like the blades of the grass. So when I cut my blades of grass out, there was all kind of white on the top. So I just inked all the edges with the green and laid that paper flat on just a spare piece of paper, and then inked it so that all the green kind of blended in and you couldn't see any white edges anymore. So that's just an easy tip to do if you are not great at fussy cutting, which I am not. So for back to Advice from a Flamingo, where we've got the glossy accents is on the beak of our flamingo here and on his eye as well. And then his wings and all the white parts of him have the stickles on him. And then the Let Your Colors Shine, of course, it's shiny, so we went ahead and added some glossy accents there. And then you've got a little wooden self-adhesive ladybug that's in your kit. So that's what this guy is here. And then the second flamingo on this one, as we work our way down, again, the eye and the beak have glossy accents. And then we've got stickles here on the wings. And then we've also got this little heart swirl. So I put stickles all around there, and then put glossy accents in the middle of the heart. And then we've got some more stickles on the standout of Stand Out in a Crowd, and then on the white parts of this flamingo, and then also stickles on the feathers of this final flamingo in the lower right hand corner. And then we've got the glossy accents on the beak and the eye again of that one. And then here you can see where I used the Powder Puff Mint Julep color, just kind of a lime greenish color for behind the heart here. And then also behind all of the palm fronds and behind this guy's legs here, just to disguise the white background and have it blend in a little better. So that is Advice from a Flamingo. And then we've got Sea Turtleology, or Advice from a Sea Turtle. This one, when I fussy cut out this piece of the sea plants, I went ahead and left these unattached and purposely hanging over the edge of the canvas just to give it a little bit more dimension there. Also, there's some more here that are not glued down, so just the base part here is glued down. And then I put glossy accents on all the bubbles, and then stickles on different parts of the plant. So you can see the stickles here on the coral, and then also over here on these plants. And then there's glossy accents on the bubble by this fish, and then some stickles again on the coral over here and on our jellyfish right here. And then we've got more glossy accents again on the bubbles. And then on the turtles, all of the eyes of the turtles have glossy accents, as well as parts of their shells. And then this one, since he's kind of coming out of the water in this image, I went ahead and did all of the water here with glossy accents to kind of give it that three-dimensional effect. And then as we work our way down the canvas, I put stickles over the entire strip of words for keep calm and don't stress. And then also used stickles all throughout this octopus and all over the different greenery of that plant. And then as we move over here, this sea turtle has glossy accents for the entire shell as well as the eye. So you can see where his shell is shiny, but his fins are not. And then we've got a little fish there. And if you want to glossy accents or stickle up some of your fish, feel free to do that, but I just left mine plain. And then we've got glossy accents again on the bubbles, on the shell of this sea turtle as well as his eye. So you, again, if I zoom in here, you can see the shine on it. And then there is glossy accents on this starfish as well as this starfish and this little coral down here. And then all the rest of these just have stickles on them to give it that added sparkle. And then we've got some more stickles over here, and then a little bit of glossy accents because we've got some more bubbles. And then on this one, I used two different kind of turquoisey, tealy blue, green colors from the Powder Puff collections. I used the Bermuda one, and then I also use the Caribbean blue. And that again just helped with my fussy cutting. So when I didn't fussy cut very well, I just did that around the edges of some of these images and to cover in the background and kind of blend in the edges of the background on this turtle. And then I used that same mint julep minty green that we used with the flamingo behind the green sections of our underwater plants. So right here, up on this one, and then also to disguise the white background on this guy. And then used it also for the words behind go with the flow. So I inked the edges and then just lightly inked the background of that one. And then the blues are also lightly inking behind the bubbles. So it actually looks like the bubbles are coming out of the water and not out of white paper. So again, this is your advice from a sea turtle. We've got two more to go. So we've got advice from the ocean. So on this one, again, we've got this kind of watercolor paper underneath that has some really pretty blues and greens and even some hints of pinks and purples in here. So very beachy colors. And then we've got the cork at the bottom. And I just cut mine again in kind of a slope to simulate the coast or the sand. And if you want to ink this with some brown ink or distress ink, you can do that for the edges of your beach as well. I didn't on this one. But again, then we've got our sparkly trim around the outside. And I just glue right around the center section so that way there's room to tuck things underneath it. So I tucked this bottom shell in the bottom left corner. He's got glossy accents right here, so you can see where he's kind of shiny. And then I did all of the stripes on him. I did the stickles and just ran my stickles vertically to match with the stripes on the shell. And then same thing here. He's got all the kind of diagonal straight lines of stickles on this shell as well. And then on my starfish here, I put glossy accents all over the bumps. So it's kind of hard to tell that on the camera, but in real life it's cool and it gives it a like actual bumpy effect when you touch it. And then on Take Time to Coast, on the word coast, and then also on my blue inker, I added stickles onto those as well. And then we've got stickles again on this shell, just following the dark lines that are on that shell. And then glossy accents on this one, so you can kind of see here where it's glossy right here along the ridges of this guy. And then we've got stickles again on this starfish just to highlight all of the white parts for the lines in the middle. And then the sand dollar, we've got a combination of stickles and glossy accents. So I did stickles in the middle for the little kind of star image, and then I did glossy accents for all of the tan spots, and then left these little rivets in the middle. I left those without any embellishment on it. So that is Advice from the Ocean. I didn't use the inks to outline on this one, but if you want to add some ink to the edges of any of these, you can feel free to do that. But the images on this one are just really pretty and didn't need a lot of extra embellishments from an ink perspective. And then finally, we've got Advice from a Snowman. So this one, we've got the white snowflake paper in the background, and then we've got our white sparkly snow felt for the bottom, and then that's just cut in a gentle curve. Those are already pre-cut for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And it just, you know, simulates a snowbank there. And then we've got this awesome trim that I found that comes in a big long roll of snowflake trim that's white with like these little iridescent sparkles that are on it. So for our snowman on this one, we've got our paper snowman here. That's one of your cut images. And then I added stickles onto him and then glossy accents onto his little top hat there. And then added some stickles onto this bottom saying, and then onto the word stay as well. And then also onto cool to kind of make it look frosted. And then on our melted snowman, he's got stickles on everywhere except for the actual white melted snow part. So his arms and his carrot nose and his little eyes and scarf and his hat all have glossy accents on it. Sorry, I think I said stickles earlier. And then this little snowflake, he is just pop dotted with a foam dot behind the center so that all of these edges can kind of go up. And add a little dimension into the middle of the canvas next to our styrofoam snowman. And then I added stickles onto him. And then we've got this snowflake, which is already white and glittery. This is just an actual snowflake charm that comes in your kit. So I just adhered that directly onto the top of that white snowflake trim along the edge. And then this one up here in the corner is actually an acrylic snowflake, just a clear acrylic one, but there is a cut image that is the exact same snowflake, fits perfectly from a size perspective behind it when you fussy cut it out, and it has kind of a purplish bluish color to it. And so I just glued my acrylic snowflake directly onto the one that matched it from a paper perspective, and then glued them both onto my snowflake trim. And then my snowman, and my advice from a snowman saying, is full of stickles, so that he looks like he just has a fresh snowfall on top of him. And then the snowman that's over here in the corner, he's got a snowflake from one of your cut images with stickles on it behind him. And then I didn't adhere down his arms. I just used foam dots to adhere him onto the white trim, so he pops up from that, and then also pops up higher than the advice from a snowman sign. And then he's got stickles all over him to add some sparkle to him. So the last thing on the advice from a snowman, which is one of the first things you're going to do, so he has a little bit of time to dry for the pieces that you're going to glue on him, is you're going to assemble your snowman. He comes with 3 half-size circles that are already pre-cut for you, and some toothpicks that you're going to use to secure each part of the body and the head to each other. And then you just glue it all down at the bottom after you're done decorating it onto your actual canvas. And then you've got this blue rickrack trim that is his scarf. So I actually just tied that around the entire foam thing. And there is a teeny tiny little, if you can see that silver dot there, there's a silver straight pin that's included in your kit. So you can just secure him in there a little bit extra into your foam. So you don't have to worry about your adhesive sticking between those 2 layers. And then I put 3 buttons on my guy, but then realized he looks a little bit cluttered there. So in your kit, you have 2 buttons of these little mini black buttons. And then you've got some little pink mini beads for his mouth. And then an orange pipe cleaner that I just folded in half and then stuck directly into the nose, so you don't have to use adhesive on him. And then our snowman, for our styrofoam snowman, has 2 little googly eyes that you can glue on him, so he looks like he's a living snowman like Frosty. And then finally, to finish him up, I added stickles all over the base of him. So I actually just put the stickle right on my fingertip and then just rubbed it on. I also put stickles here in between my 2 layers of my bottom one, just because when I glued it down, it wasn't tight from top to bottom. So there was just a hint of a gap there. So the stickles kind of disguise that little space there. Then we've got some more stickles again on the body and the middle part. And then I put just a little dab of stickles on each of his cheeks. So he looks like he has little kind of frostbitten cheeks with a little bit of sparkle there. So that is the advice from a snowman kit. So again, you've got 8 different kits to choose from. We've got advice from a snowman, advice from the ocean. We've got our advice from a sea turtle or sea turtleology. Then we've got advice from a flamingo. We've got wisdom from a gnome. We've got advice from a honeybee. We've got our coffeeology. And then we also have our wineology one as well. And so with your stickles bottle, when you don't need to cut the tip or anything on these. These are ready to use once you receive them in your kit. Just simply unscrew the cap, and then you can just, just like you do glue, apply it wherever you want. So this is what one of the fairy dust on the Wisdom from a Gnome look like when it's just the printed paper. And then you can see where I applied the stickles, how it's got that different effect on it, of where you can see the shimmer on there. And then same thing with some of the flowers from our advice from a honeybee canvas. You can see they're just plain paper here, but when I've applied them onto the canvas, we've got the stickles for the added sparkle there. And then we also have some glossy accents on the center of these daisies here, to just give that a little bit of shine. And so your glossy accents is going to be the same as your stickles as far as application. You don't have to cut the tip or anything. If it does get clogged, you can just use a straight pin to stick into the very tip. I do recommend putting the lid back on these when you're not using them, and if possible, store them upside down. That keeps them from getting dry in the little tube where the application, where the actual product comes out. And then also it keeps all of your liquid just ready to use for the next time you're going to use it. So you don't have to sit there and, shake your bottle and try and get it to the point. So those are our 8 different canvases for advice canvases this month. So I hope you enjoyed them all. And if you haven't gotten your kit already, go ahead and pick one up. We've got some more available on our website at www.findyourwavecreations.com. This is Gretchen for Find Your Wave Creations. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks. Bye.